I still remember the sound of my father's voice cutting through the room like a knife. "Throw her out," he ordered. The entire family froze. My younger brother Daniel smirked. My stepmother crossed her arms with satisfaction. Even the attorney sitting at the dining room table looked uncomfortable. And then, just as one of the security guards stepped toward me, the front door opened. A man in a dark suit walked inside holding a leather folder. The moment my father saw him, all the color drained from his face. The bank manager had arrived, and everything changed. 3 hours earlier, I thought I was attending a simple family meeting. I was 52 years old, divorced, and living a quiet life in Ohio. For nearly 20 years, I had worked as an accountant for a manufacturing company. I wasn't wealthy. I wasn't flashy. Most people barely noticed me. My family certainly didn't. Growing up, Daniel had always been the favorite. If he forgot a responsibility, it was an accident. If I succeeded, it was expected. If he failed, everyone rushed to help. If I struggled, I was told to work harder. I spent years pretending it didn't bother me. Then my mother died. Everything became worse after that. Within 2 years, my father remarried a woman named Linda. Linda knew exactly how to make herself look kind in public. Neighbors loved her. Church friends adored her. But behind closed doors, she slowly pushed me out of the family. Every holiday became uncomfortable. Every gathering felt like a competition. And somehow Daniel always benefited. When my father became ill 6 years earlier, I was the one who drove him to appointments. I organized medications. I handled insurance paperwork. I spent countless weekends helping him. Daniel rarely showed up, but somehow, my father always praised him. I never complained, at least not out loud. Then, 1 month before the family meeting, I received a phone call. My father wanted everyone at his house. He said it was important. Something about estate planning. I wasn't worried. I assumed everything would be divided fairly. I couldn't have been more wrong. The meeting started with smiles. Coffee was served. Everyone acted friendly. Then my father's attorney opened a folder. As part of Mr. Harrison's updated estate plan, the room became quiet. I listened carefully. The family home would go entirely to Daniel. Several investment accounts would also go to Daniel. A vacation property would go to Linda. The antique collection would go to Linda. The savings accounts would be split between Linda and Daniel. I waited for my name. It never came. I thought I had misunderstood. Then the attorney looked directly at me. "You will receive a personal letter from your father." That was it. A letter. Nothing else. After decades of sacrifice, I was worth a letter. My chest felt tight. I looked at my father. He wouldn't even meet my eyes. That's when I realized something was terribly wrong. The meeting ended shortly afterward. Most people left. I stayed behind. "Why?" I asked quietly. My father sighed. "You've always been independent." I stared at him. Daniel had borrowed money from him for years. Daniel had never held a job longer than 18 months. Daniel lived in a house my father helped purchase. Yet somehow I was the independent one. The explanation made no sense. Then I noticed something strange. Linda immediately interrupted whenever I asked questions. Every time, almost as if she was afraid my father might say too much. I thought I understood the situation, but I was wrong. The truth was much worse. A week later, I received the letter. Inside was a single page. My father thanked me for being responsible. He said Daniel needed more support. And then one sentence caught my attention. It seemed ordinary at first, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. He wrote, "I hope you understand why I had to protect what remains." Protect what remains. What did that mean? Protect it from whom? I had no idea, but something felt off. That sentence haunted me. Then everything changed. A few days later, I ran into one of my father's former business partners at a grocery store. We exchanged small talk. Then he casually mentioned something strange. "I heard your father finally closed that old business account." I frowned. "What business account?" The man looked confused. "The reserve account, the one he kept for decades." I had never heard of it. Yet I handled many of my father's financial documents during his illness. How could I not know about a major account? For the first time, I started paying attention. Really paying attention. I began reviewing old records I still had access to. Tax documents, insurance forms, business correspondence. The deeper I looked, the stranger things became. Several financial statements were missing. Certain transactions appeared incomplete. Large amounts of money seemed to have moved between accounts. And many transfers happened after Linda entered the family. I wasn't accusing anyone. Not yet. But I knew one thing. Someone wasn't telling the truth. Then I found the first real clue. An old folder buried inside a storage box. Inside were copies of loan documents. checks, dozens of them, every single one connected to Daniel. Over the years, my father had quietly loaned him nearly $600,000. Failed businesses, credit card debt, investment schemes, personal expenses. The money never came back. Not a single dollar. Suddenly the estate plan looked different. Much different. Daniel wasn't receiving more because he needed help. He was receiving more because he'd already taken so much. But there was still something missing. Why hide it? Why punish me? Then I discovered another secret. One that changed everything. Several months before the estate meeting, my father had visited a bank repeatedly. The same bank, again and again. I only learned this because an old family friend worked there. She couldn't share confidential information, but she did say one thing. Your father seemed worried. Worried. That word stuck with me. My father wasn't generous when he was worried. He became cautious, protective, suspicious. The pieces weren't fitting together. Then came the phone call. Late one evening. My father. His voice sounded different. Tired, nervous, almost scared. I need to see you. The next morning I drove to his house. Linda wasn't there. Neither was Daniel. For the first time in years, my father and I sat alone. He stared out the window for a long time. Then he asked a strange question. If something happened to me, would you forgive me? My stomach dropped. I knew there was more. But before he could continue, Linda walked through the front door. The conversation ended instantly. The opportunity disappeared. And 2 weeks later, my father called another family meeting. The one that changed everything. The meeting began aggressively. Daniel acted unusually confident. Linda looked almost excited. My father appeared exhausted. The attorney was present. So were several extended family members. Then Daniel announced that I was causing problems. He accused me of trying to challenge the estate. He claimed I wanted money. The accusations kept coming. Most were completely false. I sat quietly, listening, watching, waiting, because by then I had learned something important. People reveal the most when they think they've already won. And Daniel certainly thought he had won. Eventually, he stood up and pointed toward the door. If she can't accept Dad's decision, she should leave. Linda nodded immediately. Then my father exploded. Throw her out. The room fell silent. For a second, I felt 12 years old again. Unwanted, ignored, humiliated. Then the front door opened. A man entered carrying a leather folder. Nobody recognized him except my father. And the moment they made eye contact, everything stopped. The man introduced himself. He was the regional manager from my father's bank. Not just a branch employee, a regional manager. And he wasn't there by accident. The attorney looked confused. Daniel looked annoyed. Linda looked nervous. The bank manager calmly opened his folder. Then he said words nobody expected. Mr. Harrison requested that these documents be delivered in person if certain conditions occurred. The room became completely still. My father lowered his head. The bank manager continued. Months earlier, my father had established a protected trust. A private trust. One that nobody knew existed. Not Linda. Not Daniel. Not even the attorney handling the estate. The trust contained nearly everything. The reserve account, several investments, business assets, property interests, assets worth millions. Daniel's jaw dropped. Linda turned pale. The room erupted with questions. But the biggest shock was still coming. The trust documents named only one primary beneficiary. Me. I couldn't breathe. I genuinely thought I had misheard. Then the bank manager continued reading. My father had become concerned after discovering that Daniel and Linda were pressuring him for money. They believed most of his wealth had already been distributed. In reality, he had quietly moved major assets into protected accounts. He wanted to see who truly cared about him, who respected him, who valued him beyond money. And according to the written statement, there was only one person who consistently showed up without expecting anything in return. Me. The room exploded. Daniel immediately accused everyone of lying. Linda claimed she had never pressured my father. The bank manager calmly produced records, signed requests, emails, financial documents. Everything was documented. Every transfer request, every demand, every manipulation. Years of evidence. And there was more. Much more. Several attempts had been made to convince my father to change ownership of additional assets. The requests came primarily from Daniel, sometimes through Linda, sometimes directly. The evidence was overwhelming. For the first time in my life, nobody defended them. Nobody. My father finally stood. The room became silent again. Tears filled his eyes. Then he looked directly at me. I knew they wanted my money. His voice shook, but I didn't realize how much I was hurting you. I couldn't speak. He continued. You never asked for anything. The words hit harder than I expected. Because all my life, that was exactly the problem. I never asked. that. I just gave and gave and gave, hoping someone would notice. Finally, someone had, even if it came painfully late. The consequences came quickly. Daniel contested the trust. He lost. The documentation was airtight. Linda tried to claim influence over certain assets. She failed. Several financial arrangements benefiting both of them were terminated. Relationships throughout the family changed overnight. People who once praised Daniel suddenly saw the truth, not because of gossip, because of evidence. Real evidence. The kind that can't be argued away. My father spent the next year trying to repair the damage. Some wounds healed, others never fully did. But for the first time, our conversations were honest. No pretending, no favoritism, no excuses, just truth. When he passed away 18 months later, I was by his side. Not because of the trust, not because of the money, because he was still my father. And despite everything, we found our way back to each other. Today, the family home belongs to me. But I don't think about the house very often. What matters most is something else. For years, I believed being overlooked meant being unimportant. I thought silence meant weakness. I thought sacrifice went unseen. I was wrong. The people who manipulate others often mistake kindness for helplessness. They mistake patience for surrender. And they mistake quiet strength for ignorance. But the truth has a strange way of surviving, even when buried, even when ignored, even when powerful people try to control the story. Eventually, the truth finds a door. And when it walks into the room, everything changes. Just like it did the day my father ordered them to throw me out. And the bank manager walked in.